Welcome to the 12 Report with Blessings Musugu, and these are the headlines. Now, as conflict in the Middle East enters its second day, Israel, Iran launch fresh attacks. Civilians feared killed as terrorists burned down military base in Borno. INEC warns parties over primary irregularities ahead of 2027 general elections. We have our reporters stationed in different parts of the country and beyond. We have Umaru Kirawa joining from Borno State, Joshua Imarai, Sumeya Abubakar and Bettina Nweli joining from Abuja, while Bernard Akede is on standby here in Lagos. We've got the details in a moment. We begin with the ongoing war in the Middle East, where Israeli forces say they struck a major Iranian military compound in eastern Iran's capital, targeting command centers of the Revolutionary Guard, Quds Force, Basij, and other security units in one of the largest air operations so far in the widening conflict. And the conflict has entered its sixth day. Meanwhile, in southern Lebanon, anti-tank fire from the Iran-aligned group Hezbollah moderately injured 2 Israel Defense Forces soldiers during ongoing hostilities. The clashes come amid escalating regional violence involving militant launches and frequent strike waves as the conflict enters its sixth day.
בטהרן תקפנו מתחילת המבצע יותר מ-220 מטרות. מוקדם יותר היום, מטוסי קרב של חיל האוויר תקפו מתחם צבאי רחב היקף של המשטר, במרחב הספריה שבמזרח טהרן. המתחם מורכב ממפקדות ומטות רבים. מהם פעילי המשטר ניהלו את המערכה מול ישראל, פעלו לדיכוי אזרחי איראן ולקידום מתווי טרור ברחבי העולם. חיזבאללה שיגר טילים לעבר שטח המדינה היום, ואף ירה טיל נ"ט לעבר כוחותינו שפעלו בדרום לבנון.
In the meantime, the U.S. Senate has rejected an attempt to limit President Donald Trump's authority to continue military operations against Iran. The narrowly defeated resolution sought to require congressional approval for further U.S. military action against Iran. The measure was introduced by Democratic Senator Tim Kaine and Republican Senator Rand Paul. If passed, it would have required the withdrawal of U.S. forces from hostilities unless Congress formally authorized the campaign ordered by Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the Iranian ambassador to South Africa, Mansour Shakib Mehr, has condemned the recent attacks on Iran by the United States and Israel. He described the strikes, which he says killed hundreds of innocent women and children, as a violation of international law and human rights. For more on the ongoing tensions in the Middle East, we're now joined by our senior international correspondent and anchor, Afia Hagen. Afia, very quickly, the conflict has entered its sixth day and we're now still seeing more fighting. Can you give us the latest of the war in that region?
Yes, absolutely. So you had Israel carrying out attacks on Lebanon and Iran with explosions seen across Tehran in the past 24 hours. Now, the Iranian attacks were also reported in Israel with air raid sirens in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem going off with explosions seen in the sky as missiles and drones were intercepted. So across the region, we also had explosions in Qatar and Bahrain. Azerbaijan was attacked by 2 Iranian drones. Also, a tanker is damaged in the northern Gulf. Iran says it attacked a US ship. You also had a first repatriation flight by the UK government set to leave Oman last night. They had technical difficulties on that flight. Passengers saying that it took more than 4 hours to check in. By that time, the pilot's flying time had run out. He couldn't fly safely. So they had to disembark, and that flight is thought to be taking off today. 6 foreign nationals have been injured by falling debris in Abu Dhabi. And we have, in the past 30 minutes, had an incident at an RAF base in Cyprus. But that incident is thought to be over, but we don't know the details of that as yet.
Okay, and now Iran has warned the United States it will come to regret the sinking of an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean. How serious is this threat?
I think we definitely have to take that threat seriously. It's an extremely serious development because the sinking of an Iranian warship in this way is one of the most direct military confrontations between the United States and Iran in decades. You know, the vessel was called the Iris Dina. It was one of Iran's newest frigates and sunk by a US submarine. 87 sailors were killed. What is particularly significant as well is that it took place outside the Middle East, outside Middle Eastern waters, which means this war is now spreading into international waters and, importantly, global shipping routes. So the concern could be that a naval warfare could become much more intense around these strategic shipping lanes on the Strait of Hormuz. For Iran, this is a real bloody nose. It's a real embarrassment that their ship, a very new ship, like I said, could be sunk by the United States in this way, and they will want to retaliate heavily.
All right, Afia Hagen there, News Central's senior international correspondent and anchor. Afia Hagen bringing the updates on the Middle East tensions. Back to Nigeria, where armed fighters suspected to be Boko Haram and ISWAP have reportedly killed an underdetermined number of civilians and abducted women and children in Ngoshe, Gwoza local government area, Borno State. Residents say several buildings and military vehicles were set ablaze, while families fleeing the attack have taken refuge in Polka town. Bulama Sawa, national chairman of the Gwoza Youth Forum, told News Central that authorities must clear remaining militants from nearby hills and communities to ensure safety. Displaced Ngoshe residents now in Polka are appealing for emergency medical care and food supplies. Our correspondent, Umoru Kirawa, joins to give us more update. Kirawa, what is the update from that region in terms of the attacks?
The update is that residents that have fled the attack by insurgents are now taking refuge in Polka town, and they are in hundreds, and they slept in an open space. And but from the information I've gotten, they are now at the Central Primary School in Polka, and they are expecting food supplies from the Gwoza local government council led by the chairman, Abba Timta, who is said to is coming with some food supplies that will support the victims of the Ngoshe attack. But by and large, it's a very unfortunate incident that led to the death of many and the displacement of hundreds of families.
Has the authority responded in any way?
Well, for now, there is no any official response, but from what we are seeing is that the authorities are said to have, particularly the air component of the Operation Hadinkai, have said to have killed some of the insurgents who are running away from the community after the attack. But by and large, there is no any official statement from the authorities. But the people are pleading for support as hundreds of families are said to have been kidnapped by the terrorists. And I was told that some of the terrorists, in fact, they asked the community members to join them to go together, or if you resist, then they will kill you. And that's the end of the story. And we've learned that so many military also were also affected.
All right, Umoru Kirawa there giving us an update on the Ngoshe terror attack. Now, following the inconvenience in gridlock caused by the cashless toll payment policy at the international airport, President Tinubu on Tuesday ordered an immediate revert to status quo. This announcement was made by Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo. Now, the cashless process, which commenced March 1st, 2026, left many motorists complaining about delays at the toll, with some travelers complaining about missing their flights. Moving on now to more stories. The Federal Executive Council has approved major infrastructure projects across Nigeria, including the demolition and reconstruction of Lagos' aging Qatar Bridge, deemed unsafe for repair. Minister of Works David Umahi briefed journalists after the FEC meeting chaired by President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja. And now News Central State House correspondent Bettina Nweli is live and gives us more update. Bettina, what is going on with the Carter Bridge rehabilitation? They have said that it's unsafe. It's been deemed unsafe because, I mean, it's aging. What is the update on that?
Well, thank you, Blessings. Good afternoon. According to the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, he has said that the Federal Executive Council approved the redesign of the Carter Bridge in Lagos, paving way for full demolition and reconstruction. Now, he was briefing the State House press corps yesterday after the meeting, and he says that the government also approved the reconstruction of the 7.1-kilometer Suleja-Minna Road following the termination of the previous contractor who has their matter now before the ICPC for possible fund recovery. Now, the council also approved several other key infrastructure projects, but the particular one that has to do with the Carter Bridge, they are saying that the bridge repairs are beyond rehabilitation, so they are going to have to actually tear it down and start over from scratch. Now, the question that we are asking is what will be the alternative route and how will that also pan out on the citizens living in Lagos State, Nigeria? But I guess by the time the project commences, then we'll be able to ask those questions.
So what are the other highlights that we can get from the meeting?
Okay, another highlight that happened at the meeting is the one that has to do with aviation. Now, we remember that the aviation industry, they had started what they call a cashless policy, the Federal Airport Authority, but that caused a lot of gridlock in Lagos State, in Abuja, in fact, around the country, because some people had to miss their flights, some people had damaging consequences due to that. So the president has now put a pause on it immediately, saying that it's causing too much strain on the citizens. However, they're going to look for a way to navigate the cashless policy, maybe make it a hybrid for starters, and then when all things are put in place, they can now make it a law as such. But for now, passengers are advised that they can also use their cash, and those that have also purchased the cashless card can also use that as well. So it's going to be a hybrid matter for now.
All right, New Central State House correspondent Bettina Ueli bringing us the updates regarding the cashless policy that we saw causing a gridlock at the airport some days back. Very quickly, we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk politics. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Now to electoral matters. The Independent National Electoral Commission has warned that flawed party primaries and internal disputes are driving voter apathy and spurring pre-election litigations. Chairman Joash Amukpiton raised the concern during a workshop on revising party regulations in Ikotepene, Akwa Ibom State, organized with the Westminster Foundation of Democracy. He said candidates chosen through non-transparent processes weaken public confidence and often trigger legal battles, while leadership conflicts within parties frequently spill into the courts. Amukpiton urged political parties to respect their constitutions and strengthen internal democracy ahead of the 2026 primary season. Now, protesters who identify themselves as members of the opposition African Democratic Congress have called on Justice Joyce Abdulmalik of the Federal High Court to recuse herself from a case bordering on the party's internal affairs, alleging bias. The protesters who gathered at the entrance of the Federal High Court of Nigeria in Abuja described the situation as a calculated attempt to weaken opposition politics in the country. Carrying placards, the demonstrators passed what they termed a vote of no confidence on the judge, insisting that for justice to be seen as impartial, she must step aside from further proceedings in the matter.
Let it be known to Justice Joyce Abdulmalik and her co-travelers that we will occupy the Federal High Court tomorrow, 6/3/2026, to ensure that she did not sit to carry out the assignment given to her by the ruling APC.
How can a judge who is sitting on a case be bullying the lawyer of a party? Yes. Because you have an ulterior motive, because you have been given, I don't know who is giving her instruction.
So you say her conduct has shown?
Her conduct has shown. It's easy to see. What is there when the party said we don't have confidence in you, then you recuse yourself.
Yes, so the woman is being sponsored by APC. The woman is being manipulated by Wike. Wike has sworn that nobody will contest against Bola Tinubu.
Yes.
And we want to sound it as note of warning that should that woman come to court tomorrow, we will make sure she will not leave this court.
We're now joined by our correspondent, Joshua Imarai, to give us more updates. Joshua, what is the development to this story? They have been asking, the people protesting have been asking Justice Joyce Abdulmalik to recuse herself.
Good afternoon to you, Blessings. For the fact, there's a case before Justice Joyce Abdulmalik of the Federal High Court here in Abuja, a case bordering on the internal crisis of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, and several parties challenging each other over the appropriate leadership of the party before the court. But on the flip side is that the thing is Justice Joyce Abdulmalik has been on the case, and she has been the presiding judge for a while now, and there are allegations from these individuals who identify themselves as registered members of the ADC saying that she should recuse herself from the case. We are yet to get more reaction from the court authorities or maybe the Director of Information and Press, because we are still on that. But one thing we know is that these individuals are saying that they are discontent, they seem disgruntled and dissatisfied in the fact that Justice Joyce Abdulmalik is still holding the case. Earlier on, a judge actually recused himself from this particular case, and the case was transferred to Justice Joyce Abdulmalik. Well, what this individual is saying, that they are no longer comfortable with the fact that Justice Joyce Abdulmalik is holding the case and is the presiding judge of the case. They are saying that there seems to be some handwritings on the wall that seems to be what they allege as bias from our own part. She has not responded, nor the court authorities have not responded, so we are awaiting further confirmation and response, perhaps reactions from the court authorities. Blessings.
All right, Joshua Marai is still on standby. We would still come back to you for more updates on this next story. The Federal High Court in Abuja has also discharged and acquitted the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, of a 23-count charge of alleged non-declaration of assets filed by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. Now, while delivering the judgment in the suit, Justice James Omotosho ruled that the NDLEA did not provide sufficient evidence to establish ownership of the landed properties alleged to have been owed by Kyari. The court also held that it found no material evidence linking Kyari to the property at Fountain Estate, Kasana, said to belong to Ramatu Kyari, nor to properties on Linda Choko Road, Asokoro, and in Maiduguri, Borno State. Now, on the charges against Kyari's brothers for alleged conspiracy and false affidavits, the court held that the prosecution failed to substantiate the allegations and all the defendants were consequently discharged and acquitted. So, Joshua, coming back to you, what is the update on this particular story? The court has acquitted Kyari and, the people who, he was co-accused with. What is the update of that?
Well, in fact, the court actually did discharge and acquit the suspended DCP of police, Abba Kyari. Of course, Abba Kyari is standing trial in 2 cases, and one of the cases has just ended before Justice James Omotosho. Justice James Omotosho ruled that the NDLA did not substantiate their claims of Abba Kyari owning this particular asset, which they say he did not declare. Now, Abba Kyari, who is quite happy with the judgment, could not speak to journalists because he's still in the custody of the Nigerian Correctional Service. But what we know is that there is still a case ongoing before the Federal High Court, particularly Justice Emeka Nwite, particularly about the alleged involvement of Abba Kyari in drug trafficking. So we are still looking forward to that case and the judgment of that case. But with regards to the case of non-declaration of asset, we have seen it ended in the Federal High Court. It is expected that parties who are not comfortable with the ruling or judgment will approach a higher court of authority, maybe the Court of Appeal, to seek redress and maybe slug it out. That's all we know for now.
All right, Joshua Marai, they're giving us an update from the Federal High Court regarding these 2 developments. Now, following the inconvenience and gridlock caused by the cashless toll payment policy at the international airport, we did mention earlier that President Tinubu on Tuesday has ordered an immediate revert to the status quo. Now, regarding this, we have a New Central's correspondent, Bernard Akede, who is currently at the airport and will be giving us more updates. Bernard, what is the present situation of things at the airport? We can see, as opposed to yesterday, the gridlock has reduced and, in fact, disappeared. Is this because of the fact that things have reverted to status quo?
Thank you for having me. Yes, Blessings. It's a complete contrast as to what we saw yesterday. As a matter of fact, things have not reversed to or returned to status quo. It's a complete change. If you look behind me now, you will see that there's nobody stationed at the toll spots collecting toll. As a matter of fact, vehicles have been moving freely since yesterday night, as I've been made to understand. Once or twice, actually, you could see some vehicles, and you might be lucky to see some, slowing down at the toll, attempting to pay. However, there's nobody collecting toll there. The toll stoppers, or the barricades, as you would like to call them, have completely been thrown open, and it's free for all to go through the toll back and forth. And of course, this is because of the president's order stating that tolls should stop being collected because of the gridlock that the cashless policy of toll collection had caused. This cashless policy was supposed to start on the 1st of March. Unfortunately, it didn't go according to plan. Some people we spoke to here said that the traffic stretched all the way from here, the toll spots at international airports, down to Awolowo Road in Ikeja, and that's past the local airport MM2. That's about some 3.6 kilometers and beyond. So yes, toll is no longer being collected as at now while we are here, while I can speak and say that authoritatively.
All right, now, while the cashless policy may not have been a bad idea, especially because it would have improved proper financial accountability, what do you think would have been the problem with that?
Well, Blessings, like one of the people I spoke to earlier here, he says just like many policies that are being introduced in Nigeria by authorities, it most likely would have been proper sensitization, or the lack of it in this particular case. You'll see the billboard beside me right now on your screen showing payments made easy, talking about the cashless policy, which was supposed to commence on the 1st of March. Now, for people who apply these rules, they may have been able to see that prior to the 1st of March, but for people like you and I and others who this is not a regular commuting spot for them, how would they have known? Many have complained that they didn't get to hear this over the radio or on the TV, or maybe they did, I didn't hear it enough. So it's probably a problem of the lack of proper sensitization, I would like to say. And this is not new to many Nigerians, unfortunately. A new policy is coming, but they don't get to hear about it enough, or they don't get to hear about it on time. And this most likely would have been what caused this particular issue. According to some other people who we spoke to who actually have the card, they say it was seamless when it comes to paying. So the operation of the card itself, or the cashless policy, may not have been so much the issue as the lack of sensitization concerning this new policy.
So now that they say that they're going to slow things down, I mean, it looks like the plans are that they're going to try this again, but at a later date. What do you think will be the next action by the airport authority and, of course, by the government?
Well, the Honorable Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, that's talking about Festus Keyamo, did state yesterday when he was announcing the halt or the suspension, as he stated, of this cashless policy. He did state that the order given to him by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was to suspend the current process and then to go back to the drawing board. And that they even have the liberty, they are at liberty, to partner certain private companies or private individuals, the private sector generally, to see which organizations or individuals can properly partner FAN and the aviation industry, see how they can properly operate the automated tolling system. It's not new to other countries in the world, and obviously not to Nigeria, such that they will have proper cards system where all they need to do is either swipe or just flash the card across the system, and it wouldn't cost so much time or so much money. You can also see to my left here, there's a board there that shows the new pricing for the tolls, for vehicles, for SUVs and buses, for trucks, and of course for trailers and container-laden vehicles. So the idea, according to the aviation minister, again, is for them to go back to the drawing board, partner private organizations or individuals whom they know have the ability in terms of resources and technical know-how to properly run a tolling system such that it will be a win-win situation for both the authorities and for Nigerians plying the airport route.
All right, News Central's lead correspondent, Bernard Akede, who is currently at the airport, has given us an update on that. And as we can see, the gridlock has disappeared and people are free to travel without missing their flights. Now, residents of the World Bank housing estate in Umuahia have also once again rejected what they describe as outrageous electricity bills issued by the Enugu Electricity Distribution Company. They took their protest to the government house, saying the estimated billing system has imposed severe hardship on households in the estate. News Central's Chinwe Ugeli reports.
Residents of one of Umuahia's oldest estates say excessive billing has become unbearable. Presenting their grievances to the governor's security advisor, McDonald Oba, the community's spokesperson, Chukwemeka Nwankwo, called for the immediate provision of prepaid meters.
They said we are on ban A now, that we merited it. We don't want ban A. These are our 3 points. We should be metered. The areas that were accumulated during this excessive billing should be cleared. Finally, they should give us at least a sustainable and a good bill that we can afford, an affordable bill.
The government representative assured the protesters of swift intervention to address the issue.
I assure you that within the shortest possible time, you will get a response from government. Thank you. It will be looked at dispassionately, and based on the merits of it, it will be attended to.
Residents also allege that since their migration to Band A, their monthly electricity bills have surged dramatically, sometimes rivaling house rents.
We've talked about it. We said, why are they giving us this kind of bill? For example, you see somebody who doesn't have much, living in a self-contained or two-bedroom apartment. He has to pay 6,000 naira, 7,000 naira as his rent, as his bill, electricity bill. When his rent is barely 25,000 naira in a month, 20,000 naira in a month. My own house rent is 400,000 naira in a year. Now check that and compare that with a bill of 59,000.
Let me just say, last year we were paying like 10,000 naira per month. All of a sudden they increase it to 60,000, 70,000. And some of these residents are poor widows, retirees. That estate is for middle class people. So they can, some of them, their salaries are not even up to 70,000. So we can't afford it.
I received 67. The bill is difficult for me to pay.
They insist that only the introduction of prepaid metering will curb what they describe as inflated and unsustainable charges. In Abia for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
You're live with us on the 12 Report. We're going on a short break now, and when we come back, we've got more stories. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned. Now, as tensions escalate in the U.S., Israel-Iran conflict, global attention is on both the battlefield and shifts in international alliances. In Lagos, the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, NIIA, is hosting a high-level lecture titled Israel, Africa and Global Geopolitical Shifts. With missiles striking across the Gulf, a U.S. submarine sinking an Iranian warship, and explosions working major cities, experts warn Africa cannot remain a silent observer. The conflict is already affecting oil markets, security partnerships, and foreign policy across the continent. News Central's Emmanuel Olubobokun reports live from the NIIA, where policymakers and scholars are analyzing the implications for Nigeria and Africa. Emmanuel, how is the U.S.-Israel-Iran conflict affecting African economies, especially, oil-dependent nations like Nigeria?
All right, thank you very much for the question. Basically, since the inception of the war till now, looking at the Iran-U.S. war now, it's seen that this can actually affect Nigeria and Africa economically when we look at the oil section, looking at energy, because we see that from that very side is where we get our oil, and it has actually to lead to an increase in prices of oil, which is already in place now. Looking at our prices of fuel has even increased in our various filling stations in Nigeria, and also in terms of energy, it can also increase it. Why? Because though they're saying the strait is not blocked, but still yet it is still on. And looking at how it's going on right now in Africa, if care is not taken, this can really affect us, because we actually are the one benefiting from them. And once that war comes in, it's going to affect us. We can remember, if we can recall that of the Ukraine-Russian war, when it commenced, where prices of fuel right here in Nigeria skyrocketed due to the conflicts over there. You can see that it's more or less like interwoven. We're benefiting from them. They also are benefiting from us in terms of economic, in terms of funds, in terms of currency, even transfer. That's a currency transfer, which is a major play, because with it, you can see price or increase in terms of currency, maybe in terms of the dollar price to naira, and this can also go a long way. And once there's an increase in that, surely it will surely affect Nigeria in terms of food items, in terms of machinery, and the price of food going up, price of machinery going up, various things coming into the country skyrocketing. So I believe that war can actually affect Africa, and will actually affect Africa if this continues. Though Trump is saying that it's going to go in for over 4 to 5 weeks, and we are definitely saying that maybe with coming weeks, we might be seeing an increase on oil prices here in Nigeria. So definitely, it's actually having a big and huge impact on Africa, and also including Nigeria for specificity.
All right. Again, one of the things that matter the most is that actions are taking. So what key outcomes or recommendations are expected from today's meeting at the NIIA?
Currently, as you can see, discussions are going on. Just before coming outside, stepping out for the interview, with the speaker, who is actually giving a lecture on what can be done. Well, I feel that definitely, I believe strategies will be put in place to, I'll see how we Nigeria and Africa as a whole can come together and see how we can, dialogue or come to a dialogue and see how this does not really affect, the conflict does not really affect us, see how we can mesh together, see how we can, bring about, solutions, how to, manage the situation, because definitely we might not be able to stop it, we might not be able to stop the war, but at least we should be able to bring out solutions, bring out strategies whereby we can put in place to manage the situation so that the moment things like this in terms of oil and in terms of price and premium petroleum products or energy and food stuff comes in play, we can be ourselves to be able to manage it and not allow it to also affect citizens in Africa here. So I expect from the discussion, which is still ongoing, that things will be put in place, solutions will be put in place. Various African countries, even surprisingly, we have the ambassador to one of the African nations here with us, trying to see how we can discuss what we can do together, the synergy that we can bring together to, so we can assist citizens so that it could reduce the burden on citizens. So definitely, I expect a big thing. I expect something huge from this event, whereby strategies put in place, and also a call to the government. Probably the government can also do something. Like government, I'm talking about the presidency, to do something to bring about the issue.
All right, Emmanuel there, Olubaboko, with the updates from the meeting at the NIIA on how the Middle East tension is gradually affecting Africa, and Africa cannot continue to sit at the sidelines and watch. Still talking security, communities across 5 Kaduna local government areas, Shikun, Kajuru, Kagarko, Kacha and Kauru, have raised the alarm over incessant terrorist attacks and abductions. Residents tell News Central's Kaduna correspondent that militants have disrupted daily life, with Kachia and Kagako alone experiencing 3 attacks in the last 10 days. Now, remote areas in these local government areas are reportedly now uninhabitable. In January, 177 Christians were kidnapped, with Governor Obasani confirming the affected community's proximity to Rajana, a known terrorist enclave bordering Kaduna, Niger State and the FCT. We're now joined by Ruben Buhari, a member Christian Solidarity Worldwide, the former spokesman of Kaduna State government. Thank you, Mr. Ruben, for joining us. Now, the Kaduna Peace Model, a well-publicized initiative by Governor Obasani, is in place. Why are these attacks still happening?
All right. Thank you very much. You see, the Kaduna Peace Model was not all-encompassing. It was just restricted to 1 or 2 local governments, Brennungwari, I think just Brennungwari. And for me, this is where the whole problem started, because when you sit with these people and you decide on an agreement on how to have peace, and then other areas were not brought into it, it means that you've left those for this thing to continue to fester. So the Kaduna Peace Model worked just for a while in one local government, and in the other local government, nothing has happened. And for me, this is part of the reason why we've seen this surge in insecurity all across. Like you said, you see Chukun, Kajuru, part of Kagarku and Kauru. These 4 local governments are experiencing the worst of the worst in terms of insecurity. And this thing has gone in and disrupted a lot of things, economic activities, farming activities, social life. It has disrupted a lot of things. Right now, as I'm talking to you, you have a lot of communities that have been abandoned all across. And if you look at the whole thing, part of Chukun, part of Kajuru, and then it follows back and then affect part of Kachia, and then back part of Kagarko, and then part of Kauru. So these four local governments are experiencing the worst of the worst in terms of insecurity in Kaduna State.
So now the governor also admitted that Kajuru, Kagako, and Kachia are near the deadly Rajana village. If we have admitted and we've realized that it's true, why has the federal government not taken stronger action?
You see, this is a question I also love to have an answer to. If you say Regina is a hotbed of this insecurity, and Regina is just an area, you know, why stops you from going after these people? Why can't you go after them? And let me tell you, it's not just Regina alone, because these guys are all over. Like we said, Regina is in where? Regina is in part of Kachia, you know, and it's just on the Kaduna Abuja highway. Then by the time you go down, you go into Chukun, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, bandits are everywhere in Chukun. Then you go down to Kachia, especially around the Gorara Dam. You have a lot of them there. So my problem is that if you said, okay, this is the location, we've identified where these people are, so what stops you from going after them, you know? And let me tell you, one of the biggest issues with this thing is that government could decide and say, okay, this is the location of these people, we're going to go after them. But what needed to be done is to do a holistic approach. Map out these whole areas where these guys are and go after them. Because by the time you go after these people in a particular location, they simply move to other location and stay there. And then you go after them and then they move. I know there are a lot of very vast ungoverned spaces all across this place. So for me, the problem is that there's no holistic approach to tackling this thing.
All right, Mr. Ruben Buhari, a member of Christian Solidarity Worldwide and former spokesman, Kaduna State Government. Thank you so much for your time with us on the news.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, the University of Lagos is powering ahead with Day 4 of its Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Business Incubation Certification Program, a 5-day initiative designed to equip 100 level students with practical business and innovation skills. Now, this initiative is aimed at challenging students to think beyond the classroom and embrace entrepreneurship as a pathway to career growth and economic impact. News Central's correspondent, Leko Onobanjo, joins us now for more on this. Leko, what is the update from where you are? Can you tell us more about the skills acquisition program that is currently ongoing?
Okay, so currently I'm at the University of Lagos in Akoka, Yaba, where we have about 1,500 students in the auditorium being engaged and being taught how to develop entrepreneurial skills. Now, most especially, this focuses on building skills that can help them navigate the business environment, become creators, become innovators, and be able to reduce the unemployment rate, not only in Nigeria, but also in Africa. Now, this particular program is called Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Business Incubation Certificate Program, designed by the Entrepreneurial Skills and Development Center of the institution, and it's all about impacting practical business and innovation skills into these young minds. Now, this means that by the time these young minds would have graduated from school, they will not be looking for white-collar jobs anymore. They would be creating jobs, they will be creating values, and they would also be part of the ecosystem that competes with their counterparts in other spheres of the globe.
So what are the major inhibitors to creativity and innovation, especially in Nigeria and Africa?
Yes, so based on the conversation, that has to do with mindset. That's one of the major inhibitions, because if you can't think right and you feel you can't do what is necessary, or you feel that you are not capable enough to fit into the system in terms of skills mismatch or skill deficits, then definitely you will not be able to contribute meaningfully to your environment. So what this particular engagement with founders, academics, creators, what this engagement is about is to impact in them the mindset that they can do it. They just need to focus on value rather than money. And also it's about educating them in terms of the syllabus, telling them that with the kind of education that you get from citadels like this, you can actually create novel businesses, not only that satisfies your market or your own niche, but of course the entire spectrum or the entire population based on their needs. So these are the inhibitions, and this particular engagement or program focuses on how to unlock the potential of these young minds and see how they can compete favorably and be very valuable in their environments.
All right, Leko Onobanjo there on Students Innovation and Skills Development Program, and he's been giving us an update, and will definitely still be on ground to follow up with the event. You're live with us on the 12 Report. We go on yet another break, and when we come back, we've got more stories. Just stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Meanwhile, the Iranian ambassador to South Africa, Mansour Shakib Mir, has condemned the recent attacks on Iran by the United States and Israel. And we told you this earlier on, but in the meantime, we have News Central's Bongani Ziba, who is on standby and will be bringing us more updates on this development.
About why the U.S. president took this action is just as valid as everyone else. Is Iran at the claws of having ballistic missiles that can reach the United States? According to Iran, absolutely not.
Iran, based on the religious fatwa of the very person who was assassinated, has not pursued nuclear weapons. Iran has had the highest level of cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. Continuous inspections of Iran's nuclear facilities were ongoing until the military aggression in June 2025.
The Iran ambassador to South Africa has addressed the media, clarifying Iran's position amid ongoing regional tensions.
The aerial attacks carried out by the United States and the Zionist regime is a clear breach of Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the United Nations Charter, and are a clear example of armed aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran. This act has no legal, moral, or rational justification, and is a clear instance of aggressive action and the crime of aggression under international law.
He spoke candidly about the Iran stance on the current conflict, highlighting the ongoing war and the devastating toll it has taken.
For example, in the city of Mina, you saw the pictures. In southern Iran, an all-girls elementary school was almost completely destroyed, resulting in the death of nearly 170 innocent children.
He further called on the international community, including South Africa, to support Iran during these challenging times. Despite the turmoil, the ambassador expressed hope for a peaceful resolution and pledged Iran's commitment to dialogue and stability in the Middle East. In Pretoria, for News Central, Bongani Ziba.
Now, the federal government of Nigeria has joined a global agreement on the responsible use of artificial intelligence with a focus on protecting citizens' data and privacy as AI technology continues to expand around the world. If any continent needs this, Africa does. Now, what this simply means is that Nigeria is acknowledging that artificial intelligence is no longer a future concept. It's already embedded in everyday life, powering social media algorithms, facial recognition systems, fintech platforms, and even hiring tools. With that influence comes growing concern about how personal data is collected, stored, and also used. Now, by signing this pact, Nigeria is committing to international standards that aim to prevent the abuse of AI systems. Now, these standards focus on limiting unauthorized surveillance, preventing the misuse of personal information, and ensuring that AI does not make unfair or biased decisions about individuals. The move also signals that Nigeria wants to position itself more seriously in the global digital economy. Countries hoping to attract technology investment and innovation are increasingly expected to show that they actually can regulate emerging technologies responsibly. However, the real test will be enforcement. We talk a lot about implementation plans, about reforms, but enforcement has often always been a challenge. Signing international agreements is one thing, but ensuring that they translate into stronger data protection laws, better regulation of technology companies, and real consequences when this privacy is actually violated is another thing. But ultimately, the value of this agreement will be measured by how well it protects everyday Nigerians who actually rely on their phones, on banking, on apps, and of course digital platforms. That is where the real work begins. And that's your postscript. Now, before we go, let's take a look at what's happening in the sporting world. Amid swelling reports and online speculation that Nigeria's hope of reaching 2026 FIFA World Cup are over, the NFF has dismissed reports claiming Nigeria's hopes are actually over. And we have Onyechi Obaru on standby. Onyechi, are you ready for us?
Yes, I am, Blessings. This is coming after Federation of International Football Association, FIFA, did release the fixtures for the 2026 Interconfederation playoffs, which has DR Congo as Africa's representative. But the Nigeria Football Federation, through the Director of Communication, has come out to say the verdict from FIFA is yet to be known. We will dive more into this on In the Game at 1 p.m. Blessings.
It's definitely, so stay tuned for In the Games. Well, that's all on the 12 report today. Do want to send in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen because we want to see what you see. Also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Now you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV 23, Star Times 274, Avo TV, and of course live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Masugum.